तत्रापि कृष्ण बलराम ज्ञानं परम परम कृष्ण युक्तम धन्तस्तु देव नमो नमस्ते 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 नमस्ते
आनंद कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। इसकान पावन आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। नाम आचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, समवेता भक्तवृंद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंद। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Haribo. Spiritual master, service. I bow down and look to your eyes.
Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome in our Zoom audience, those that are joining from home. Today's Srimad Bhagavatam class will be given by Acharya Prabhu. Just as a reminder, those that are at home, if you can remain on mute during the chanting of the verse, we encourage you to chant along, but just remain on mute. We'll be chanting the verses, call and response, live here in the temple.
Jaya Radha Madhava
Jaya Ram.
Gopijana Vallabha Givarapadi Gopijana Vallabha Givarapadi Gopijana Vallabha Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Program HG Acarya Saptashi Shrimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Program HG Acarya Saptashi Shrimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Shil Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 2, Divinity and Divine Service. We'll be reading together text 5, and I'm supposed to do some kind of overview today, stretching over a lot of verses, so we'll get into that after. Text 5. Munaya sadhu prishtoham bhavadbir lokamangalam Yatkrita Krishna Samprashno Yenatma Suprasidati Gunayak Sadhu Prishtoham Bhavadbir Lokamangalam Yatkrita Krishna Samprashno Yenatma suprasidati. Munayak sadhu prishtoham. Bhavadbir lokamangalam. Yat krita Krishna samprashno. Yenatma suprasidati. Everyone chant. Munayak sadhu prishtoham. Bhavadbir lokamangalam. Yat pita Krishna samprashno. Yenatma suprasidati. Munayak sadhu prishtoham. Bhavadbir lokamangalam. Yat pita Krishna samprashno. Yenatma suprasidati. Sad Krishnoham. Bhavadbir lokamangalam. Yat pita Krishna samprashno. Prasidati. Munayak sadhu Krishnoham. Bhavadbir lokamangalam. Pita Krishna samprashno. Yenatma suprasidati. Munaya sadhu Krishnoham. Bhavadbir lokamangalam. Yakrita Krishna samprashno. Yenatma suprasidati. Munayak sadhu Krishnoham. Bhavadbir lokamangalam. Yakrita Krishna samprashno. Yenatma suprasidati. Munayak sadhu Krishnoham. Bhavadbir lokamangalam. Yatkrita Krishna samprashno. Yenatma suprasidati. Munayak sadhu Krishnoham. Bhavadbir lokamangalam. Yakrita Krishna samprashno. Yenatma suprasidati. Munaya. O sages. Sadhu. This is relevant. Krishna questioned. Aham. Myself. Bhavadbhi. By all you. Loka. The world. Mangalam. Welfare. Yat. Because. Krita. Made. Krishna. The personality of Godhead. Samprashna. Relevant question. Yena. By which. Atma. Self. Suprasidati. Completely pleased. Translation. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna, and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Since it has been stated herein before that in the Bhagavatam the absolute truth is to be known, the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya are proper and just because they pertain to Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15, the personality of Godhead says that in all the Vedas, there is nothing but the urge for searching after him, Lord Krishna. Thus, the questions that pertain to Krishna are the sum and substance of all the Vedic inquiries. The whole world is full of questions. I'll just interject here. This purport is so beautiful, it's almost poetry. The whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, and men are all busy in the matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning, the birds in the nest become busy with questions and answers. And in the evening also, the same birds come back and again become busy with questions and answers. The human being, unless he is fast asleep at night, is busy with questions and answers. The businessmen in the market are busy with questions and answers, and so also the lawyers in the court and the students in the schools and colleges. The legislators in the parliament are also busy with questions and answers, and the politicians and the press representatives are all busy with questions and answers. Although they go on making such questions and answers for their whole lives, they are not at all satisfied. Satisfaction of the soul can only be obtained by questions and answers on the subject of Krishna. Krishna is our most intimate master, friend, father or son, and object of conjugal love. Forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of questions and answers, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. All things but Krishna give temporary satisfaction only. So if we are to have complete satisfaction, we must take to the questions and answers about Krishna. We cannot live for a moment without being questioned or without giving answers. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with questions and answers that are related to Krishna, we can derive the highest satisfaction only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. One should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam and make an all-around solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters. Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna are the sum total of all things. Munayaksaru Krishtoham Bhavadbir Lokamangalam Yakrita Krishna Samprashno Yenatma Suprasidati. O sages, I've been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishvaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Govardhana Pachayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastadade Shatayane. Amazing point and amazing verse and beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada, that the basis of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is questions and answers, not just the 6 questions in the first chapter, but all throughout Maitreya and Vidura, questions and answers, Narada and so many people, Vasudeva and Vyasadeva, and Narada speaks to so many people, Yudhishthira, so many questions and answers all throughout. It's the whole basis of it, and our process of disciplic succession, basis of it is questions and answers between spiritual master and disciple. And here it's very beautifully described, particularly in relationship to Srimad Bhagavatam. Very nice, very nicely done. Little preamble first. This is supposed to be like an overview of a lot of verses from this text up to 22. So that's a lot of ground to cover. And I'm an old-fashioned person. I like, one shloka one day is my normal program.
but I'll try to get through a lot of this and synthesize it or present some kind of overview. But it's also sad to me because these verses from 5 to 22 are like the most amazing shlokas in the whole Bhagavatam almost, and most quoted. Of Prabhupada's top 100 ever quoted verses, about roughly 6% of them are from this section of the Bhagavatam that we're covering today. And of Bhagavatam verses that he quoted, more than half of them are from this section. So the really vital instructions and beautiful instructions, and each of them is worthy of a class, or many classes actually. Anyone want to guess what the most quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada is, not including the Maha Mantra? Most quoted by a lot.
15.
No. No, of any shloka, not including the Maha Mantra. Yes, Sarvadaman by almost like 100%, like double. Almost the next verse after that, most quoted. But anyway, these verses from this second chapter are really vital, and Prabhupada would quote them a lot, reference them a lot. So I'm a little sad to, have to be just, basically lightly skimming over them. But yes, yeah, and I saw that like yesterday also. Text 19 was also covered. So that's good that they're going to be go back and covered. But anyway. Here's the beginning of this overview. The sages ask their questions, and the first question, Tatra Tachan Jasayushman Bhavataya Dinishchitam Pumsam Ekantata Shreyas Tanna Samstitam Arhasi. Tatra Tachan Jasayushman. Give us very quickly and very easily understood, simply understood, absorbable by us and by anyone. O you, Ayushman, who have a long life. Bhavata yad vinishchitam, as you have ascertained. So saying, give it to us as you have ascertained, means that they have faith in the speaker. They want to hear it as he's understood it, as he's realized it. That's also Ayushman. Everyone Indian and a little familiar with Indian culture knows Ayushman, that, blessing, Ayushman, have a long life. So I think it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, when you say Ayushman, that's the blessing that a superior gives to a junior, that you, like the parents or the grandparents says to the child, Ayushman, you have a long life. But here the disciples or the listeners are saying it to the speaker. So it's not exactly like that. They're saying, Ayushman, you've had a long life. That means you've had lots of time and experience to absorb and practice and realize these instructions. So further evidence that they're accepting him as an authority, as a bona fide speaker who's realized the knowledge. And what's the knowledge they want? Pumsam ekantata shreyas. Pumsam, for all people. Ekantata, what's the topmost one thing? Shreyas, the topmost ultimate benefit for all people. Tanna samsitam arhasi. We want to be instructed. We deserve to be instructed in this. So that's the very first question. And this verse, first verse, text 5, is glorifying that question. There's also in the parallel universe where the online Bhagavatam class is going on, they're talking about the pastimes of Parikshit Maharaj. And at the very beginning of that section, they start telling the story, and the sages go, tell us more about, they heard how Parikshit went and he met this cruel, sinful person who was beating a cow and a bull. And the sages said, you can tell us about this if it's about Krishna, if it's related to Krishna. And Prabhupada says in the purport that the sages have no interest, no business in hearing about some low-class man beating a cow. That's not something palatable or interesting to the sages. But they said, if it's related to Krishna, then you tell us about it. And then the whole pastime is explained. So this is the importance of these questions, good questions. Prabhupada very much liked good questions at the end of his classes. A few instances, he was being interviewed by someone named Richard from Coronet magazine, a now defunct magazine. Actually, it went defunct shortly after this interview. And Prabhupada liked the interview and the article that came from it very much. And during the interview, he said to this person, Richard, he says, "You're a very intelligent boy. These are excellent questions," praising him like that. And he liked the article that came from it as well. There's also a saying, sometimes it attributed to Einstein or sometimes attributed to different people. I don't know who actually said it. But the saying is that you should tell your children when, your children come home from school, "How was your day?" or whatever you ask. And instead of asking, "What did you learn today?" you should ask your child, "What did you ask today?" Because questioning is the basis of learning, the basis of knowledge. Good questions, intelligent questions. Another time at the end of a class, one devotee named Marumango asked a question. He asked the meaning of his name. And Prabhupada said, "That is not a very good question. I told you at your initiation." And actually, another time, funny story, His Holiness Naranjana Swami was giving class. And at the end of the class, someone asked, completely unconnected with anything in the class and out of nowhere, he said, "Maharaj, can you explain the meaning of vibhav?" And Naranjana Swami said, "No. Any other questions?" So there's good questions, relevant questions, intelligent questions, and then there's the less intelligent or less useful questions. Two other nice instances, Prabhupada. At 26 Second Avenue, there was one devotee named Kim, who was a young person, like 18 years old, and that person's father was a very adamant and staunch atheist. And so Kim would go to the temple, and then he'd go home and try to explain to his father, and the father would argue. And then the next day during class, Kim would come with all the arguments that his atheist father had said and presented it to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada actually enjoyed it. He liked these questions very much. And even at the end, he would turn to Kim, you have some questions? So interesting questions that give you a chance to preach and explain are very nice. And then one time after a BU lecture on Prabhupada's first visit to Boston, after the lecture, he said, "People today, they don't even know how to ask good questions," because the people ask some irrelevant, silly, or irrelevant questions. He said, "People don't know how to ask good questions, but these sages know how to ask good questions." And we as devotees, we want to learn how to ask good questions, because good questions from posed to a qualified source means good answers, and we want the good answers. So if we have a qualified person to ask the questions to, if we have faith, like the sages had faith that Sutta is a qualified speaker, then you could get good answers. And the good answer, what's the good answer they were asking? What is pumsam ekantata shreyas? What is the best, absolute, long-term, eternal benefit for the living being? And of course, the answer is the next verse in this series. Savai pumsam parodano yato bhaktir hokshide ahaitu kyasatiyata yayatma supasidati. Again, the same word in text. Where is it? Yes, in text 5, yenatma supasidati. They're asking, what's that thing that will, what's that knowledge that will completely satisfy the self? So actually, he's answering almost in the same words. What's the thing that will give yenatma supasidati? He says, here's the thing that will give yayatma supasidati, that will give full satisfaction to the self. And the sages ask, what is the thing that is, where is it? Let's see. Oh no, that's in the original question of the sages. What is pumsam ekantita shreyas, the best benefit for everyone? So the slightly different words, but almost the exact same meaning, pumsam ekantita shreyas. The answer they give is Savai pumsam parodharmo. They're asking what's the topmost benefit? And they're saying, here, savai pumsam parodharmo. Here's the topmost duty that will give the benefit to everyone. So the answer is very specific and very much on point to the question. Because just like questions shouldn't be, spaced out or irrelevant. The answers also have to be, on point. So he's doing this. Savai pumsam parodharmo. Yato bhaktirat hoksije ahaitu kya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. So the simple answer, what is the topmost dharma, the topmost duty of everyone? And it's also sort of indirectly an answer to the second question, what's the essence of all the scriptures? The answer is bhakti ad hoksije, devotional service unto Krishna, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is, in briefest, simplest form, this is the answer to the question, what's the topmost duty? The topmost thing that will satisfy everyone, satisfy you to your soul. And that's devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But there's more included. The devotional service has to have some quality. It has to have some not restrictions, but it has to be done in a certain way. It has to be done in a proper way in order to realize that full benefit. So some of that is presented here. Savai pumsam parodharmo yato bhaktir ad hoksije. The first restriction on bhakti is that it has to be to Krishna. You won't get the same benefit from so-called Shiva bhakti. Prabhupada said bhakti is really only meant for Krishna. But if you want to say, oh, Shiva bhakti, Durga bhakti, this Devata bhakti, this will not give that benefit. So that's the first thing. It has to be towards Krishna. Adhokshiji, ahaituki apratiyata. It has to be ahaituki. Hetu means cause. So ahaituki means the devotional service has to be causeless. What that means, it has to have no material cause, no material motivation in the performer of bhakti. If you're thinking, if I do bhakti, I'll get money. If I do bhakti, I'll get fame. Or even if I do bhakti, I'll get freedom from material suffering. That type of mentality is not exactly, this is also good if it's bhakti to Krishna, but if it's motivated like that, it won't completely satisfy the self. So it has to be ahaituki and apratiyata. Apratiyata means it has to be completely unimpeded, it has to be uninterrupted, and it has to be uncontaminated by other things. So what's another definition of pure devotional service? Describing that it has to be directly to Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. It has to be unmotivated by any other processes and unmixed and uncontaminated by any other processes. That, of course, is Srila Rupa Goswami's description of pure devotional service in the Nectar of Devotion. Anyabhilashito shunyam jnana karmadhyanavitam anukule nikrishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttamam. It's actually saying almost exactly the same thing as this verse is describing. So this means that what will actually satisfy us and what is actually the topmost dharma is pure devotional service. That's not motivated by material desires, not motivated by a desire for karma, a desire for yoga, a desire for jnana, or any other motivation. That is not mixed with other processes, just pure bhakti, pure devotional service to Krishna. So again, the answer to the question is bhakti, but not just bhakti, but a certain type, a certain quality of bhakti. And as this verse, Savai Pumsam Prodharmo, is defining and giving the parameters of what proper bhakti, proper devotional service to Krishna is, if I had to give an overarching theme in the name of an overview for these verses coming up, that's the overview. These verses coming up are all different analyses of bhakti, how it's applied in different situations, what its parameters are, how it relates to other processes, how it relates to other facets of our life, how to do all those things and put it all together so that bhakti that comes out is this pure type of bhakti. Because this is the philosophical understanding. We hear bhakti and then we refine our understanding. And this is also our day-to-day life, that we're always making adjustments and, arranging our life and arranging our devotional service in a way to purify and refine our philosophical understanding of bhakti and our process of bhakti. Even simple things. Okay, I'll go to sleep earlier so that I can get up earlier in order to facilitate my bhakti, or bigger changes. I may be in this ashram and now I'll be in this ashram, a different ashram to facilitate my bhakti. And philosophically, as we grow and develop in devotional service, our understanding of bhakti is also refined, and this goes on and on and on, refining and honing in on our understanding and our practice of bhakti. Just like if you're situated somewhere, anywhere on the east coast of the United States, and you have an airplane and you want to fly to the west coast, you want to fly to San Francisco, wherever you are, if you take off the plane and head in a generally westerly direction, you're going to be making progress towards San Francisco. Wherever you start, and even if you, in any general way, you're heading westerly, as you're going and flying, you're getting closer and closer, you're approaching San Francisco. But at the same time, as you approach your destination, if you're off from the straight path to San Francisco by even a couple of degrees, if you don't correct that, after some time, you're going to miss San Francisco. You may end up in Baja California. You may end up in Vancouver. So what was adequate in the beginning needs refinement and precision as we go on. And that's how we grow and refine our practice and understanding of bhakti. And that's what some of these verses are doing, which we'll see, hopefully we'll see as we go on. Text 7, I'll just read the English. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So here, after explaining that pure devotional service to Krishna is the best thing, the Shreya Uttamam, the ultimate benefit. So what are some of the benefits you get from it? It's the ultimate benefit. Okay, what are the benefits? Causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. By performing devotional service, you don't need to practice separately to become a jnani. You don't need to practice separately to become a tyagi. Actually, in Nectar Devotional, rather, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami says that some degree of knowledge and renunciation in the beginning can be helpful in performing and taking to devotional service. But he actually says too much is not good, because like too much renunciation actually makes you hard-hearted. And too much so-called knowledge, academic knowledge, book knowledge, makes you puffed up. So these things are actually disqualifications for bhakti. Because in the actual situation is that knowledge and renunciation don't give you bhakti, although in moderation and used intelligently, they can be helpful. But actually, the real situation is that knowledge and renunciation comes from bhakti. It's a product of bhakti, not a cause of bhakti. This is the superiority of bhakti over other processes like jnana and yoga, which are completely dependent on knowledge and renunciation, but bhakti is completely independent. It has no other cause, no other motivation except itself. The only thing that causes bhakti is bhakti. Even when we get bhakti, you may say, oh, I have bhakti because of the mercy of Krishna or because of the mercy of the devotees. But when the devotees are preaching and giving someone else bhakti, that's only the bhakti already existing in their own hearts, overflowing and inspiring bhakti in another. So bhakti causes bhakti. and knowledge, renunciation, and all other good qualities, all the 26 good qualities of a devotee are automatic outcomes of that. We'll look at text 8, 9, 10 together. The occupational duties a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. And life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's work. So this is a common question and a common dilemma for many people. Oh, I have devotional service, but I have a family, I have to make a living, I have a job, I have this social responsibilities. There's no more Varnashram, but in this time, Varnashram was the big social paradigm that everyone had to be part of. So what's the relationship of all of these things with devotional service? And this is explained very nicely. That devotional service has to be the outcome of our Varnashram duties, of our duties of livelihood. We have to arrange our living situation in such a way, first of all, step one, in such a way that it's not killing our devotional service. And then again, as we mature, as our understanding improves, as our management of our life improves, we try to make it as far as possible conducive to our devotional life. And we have to make a living, we have to take care of family, all these things. But if it's not helping our devotional service, or more specifically, if it's not helping us develop a taste for hearing about Krishna, then it's useless and we need to make some adjustments. All occupational engagements are meant for ultimate liberation, not for material gain. So we think, I have a job and the purpose of the job is to get some money. And material it is, and materially speaking it is, and I have my job, and I certainly wouldn't be doing it if I wasn't getting paid for it. But we should know that the ultimate occupational engagement and the ultimate goal of that, our devotional service and our life in general, 24 hours a day, has to somehow or other be directed towards devotional service to Krishna. And how is that facilitated? By minimizing our material needs. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One desire a healthy life or self-preservation. In other words, yes, we may have to work, we have to maintain ourselves, we have to maintain our family, our household, whatever, but we don't want to overdo these things. We do minimally, or what is minimum may be different for different persons. That's another thing, but we don't want to unnecessarily increase that I need more money for this sense gratification thing, or, you know, my house only has 2 rooms. Now I need a house with 10 rooms. Now I need a house with 20 rooms, with 50 rooms, whatever. Now I have a bank balance of 1,000. You have to work hard to get 1 million or 1 billion or whatever it is. So this is the relationship between material duties and our spiritual life. This material duties don't end, they can't end unless someone wants to take up Ajagara Vritti. We know Ajagara Vritti from 7th canto. Prahlad Maharaj meets the sage, and all he does, his only duty is he lays on the side of the road. And that's his job. And Prahlad says, how do you live? You seem to be healthy and well fed. He said, I lay here and, you know, if some food comes, if someone gives me some food, I eat. And if someone doesn't give me, I fast. And so we don't do that. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying that's the extreme. But everyone else, including the greatest devotees, you know, have to do something to maintain themselves. And even the Python man, the Ajagarariti, when the food comes, unless the people are directly, shoving it in his mouth and shoving it down his throat, he has to chew it, he has to swallow it. So we all have to do some kind of endeavor for that. But the point is that devotional service has to take the priority, and that material life should be helping our devotional service, or again, at the very least in our present situation, not killing it, not detracting from it. It has to be, let me see if I can very briefly find that. Yes, Dharmasya Yapavargasya. Dharma, devotional service, that's our Dharma, has to be for Apavarga. Apavarga means for liberation. Prabhupada would often make this fun and kind of cute literary analysis of Apavarga. Pavarga means material life, and Apavarga means spiritual life or liberation. So Pavarga means material life, and it also means Pavarga, which means Pavarga means the letters in the Sanskrit alphabet in the the aspirated category. Pa, ba, and ma. Those 5 consonants are Pavarga. And he says, let's see, I'm not probably going to remember. Pa means Parishrama, which means foam. And he says, just like the horse or the ass, when it's working very hard. I would see this also sometimes way back in the days when I was living with Udinadi and working oxen, especially in the summer. Sometimes working very hard, they'd actually, the animals would foam at the mouth. So Parishma, foam, this is the nature of material life, working very hard like an ass. Now I can't remember them. Parishma, what's the what's ba is Bhaya, and ma is Mrityu, but there's also pa, the aspirated P. Oh, maybe I can't remember all of them now. I'll have to look that up again. But then, yeah, what's the pa ph? What's that word represented? What word does that represent? Do you remember? Or maybe I'm mixing up. P is parishrama, which means very hard work. Oh, ph is pena, which means the foam. And then ba is baya, which means spear. Anyway, that's the general idea. I'm failing at remembering it. That's how it goes sometimes. But anyway, there's pavarga and there's apavarga. So dharmasya and apavargasya. We have to make sure that our dharma, our duty, our devotional service duty, and our material duty is conducive to the ultimate duty of liberation, which is only available through devotional service. Text 11. I wasted a lot of time wondering about that, those 5 letters. Very important verse. Vedanti tat tat vidhas tatvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan shabdite. So bhakti at Hoksija, devotional service to at Hoksija. But what's the nature of this at Hoksija that we're giving our bhakti to? He's this absolute, purely spiritual, non-dual substance who is present in different ways to different persons according to how they approach him. This jnanam advayam, this non-dual knowledge, this is Lord Krishna at Hoksija. And to those who are approaching him not through bhakti, but through jnana, then they only get a limited appreciation of Krishna as the Brahma Jyoti. And those who are approaching him through a little more advanced through the process of yoga, they actually can appreciate Krishna up to the stage of Paramatma. But those who take up Paro Dharma, the highest devotional service, the highest Dharma of devotional service, get the fullest, most complete realization of Krishna and Bhagavan. Devotees do not deny Brahma Jyoti, don't deny Paramatma, but we understand that these are partial realizations. Not that Krishna becomes partial, but it's the appreciation of different persons according to their point of view. So we have to understand not just the process, but that person, Krishna, who's the goal of our devotional service. Text 12, Tachradadana Munayo. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. Two very important points here. Tachradadana Munayo, and this has come up in a few past classes. This word Shraddha literally means faith. Faith means having trust in something or believing something or understanding logically that something is true and correct. And Prabhupada would very often translate Shraddha in different ways, as respectful hearing, as complete hearing. Here he says Shraddha, he translates as the seriously inquisitive student. So Prabhupada would often explain Shraddha, faith, like this, that it's not like blind faith, like I believe in this, I believe in that. But Shraddha means inquisitiveness. And he would say, like in Rupa Goswami's description of the stages of devotional service, Ado Shraddha, he would often say that Ado Shraddha means, oh, let me hear what they're saying. He said, if someone says, oh, these Hare Krishnas, what are they doing? Let me go here. He said, that's Shraddha. It's not really blind faith the way we normally think of faith, but it's this willingness to hear something, to understand something from a higher source. And specifically that higher source, also very importantly mentioned in this verse, Shuddha Grihitaya, that the source of this knowledge, by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. So the Shastra is the basis of our knowledge. Of course, in ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada is our ultimate authority, but at the same time, we also understand that he's drawing his authority based on the Shastra. Therefore, he wrote these books and he quotes all day long. He's quoting dozens, hundreds of shlokas referencing, because that's the basis of the authority of the Guru and Sadhu, is the Shastra. So this is another refinement of how we understand devotional service. Oh, devotional service, I want to love Krishna, but it also has to be not just whimsically, but in line with the scripture. Otherwise, Shruti Smriti Paranadi, Pancharachaka Vidindana, Ekantaki Harer Bhakti, Utpataye Kalpate. Thank you. That devotional service that's not performed in line with the scriptures, it's actually not a benefit, rather it's a disturbance in society. So this is the point being made here, that beginning with, at the stage of Shraddha, faithful hearing. Okay, in that case, I'll wrap it up in a couple of things. So Shraddha, and in line with the scriptures. Next is 13. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's occupation according to caste divisions and orders is to please the personality of God, echoing the earlier points that your so-called material duties, your life duties, your life responsibilities have to be directed towards Krishna consciousness. And we'll do one more verse. Tasmadi kena manasa bhagavad sattvatam pati shotavya kirtatavyascha dhyaya pujas chinnitida. So what are the actual activities of devotional service? And here is given a very nice summary. We know Navanga Bhakti, the 9 limbs of Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Svanam, Bhakti. We know that. So this is Chaturanga Bhakti. Tasmad ekena manasa, with one pointed attention. One should constantly Shrotavya, hear about Krishna. Kirtitavyascha, chant about Krishna. Dhyeya, meditate upon Krishna within their mind, within their heart. And pujascha nityada, and worship Krishna. So this is very nice. Hearing, chanting, meditating, and puja, worship. So this is, it's only 4 of the 9, but it's very all-encompassing. What we're hearing, everything we're hearing should be about Krishna. We hear from the scripture, we hear from the devotees, we hear from Srila Prabhupada, from all the sadhus, hearing about Krishna. And then after we've heard that and internalized it, we speak it to our friends, we discuss Krishna with other devotees. We go out to the non-devotees and preach and explain Krishna to them. And we keep those instructions also within ourselves. We meditate upon them. We consider them, we think about them. And then puja. Puja means, what are you actually going to do with that knowledge? How you live your life. Puja, of course, literally is, you take the incense and you're waving the incense. But we could take this in a general sense to mean all of the bodily worship that we do all through the day, all of the activities we all do throughout the day. So Shotavya Kirtadvyascha Dhyayas Pujas Tanitida encompasses really our whole life, our speaking, our hearing, our mental activities, and our bodily activities. Tasmadi Kena Manasa, all one pointedly fixed upon Krishna. And Nityada, eternally. Now, eternally also means different things. One meaning eternally is that it's so eternal that these activities of pure devotional service, even when you're liberated, even after this body is over, even wherever you go after this life, a next life in this material world, or you return back to Godhead, and these same activities, continue nityada, eternally. There's never any end to it. Unlike the process of jnana and yoga, where you get jnana and then you attain liberation, and there's no more jnana, and there's no more person to have any jnana. Finished. It's a process you take and then you jettison. Or yoga, you do the postures and do all the things, and then you get your yogic siddhis and you're done, you attain perfection. But in devotional service, the process that took us to the goal of devotional service to Krishna continues unimpeded after that. Another meaning of nityada is that in our present time, day-to-day life, it never stops. That we get up, we chant Hare Krishna, we hear class, we engage in this devotional service, and then after that, we do another form of devotional service, and without a break after that, we do another devotional service, apratiyata, so unbroken devotional service, constantly. Prabhupada would say 24 hours a day of devotional service. That's another meaning of nityada. And another meaning of nitya is regularly, that, okay, 24 hours a day, that's hard. You have to go to work, you have to, so many demands, social demands, bodily demands, but at least nitya means regularly, every day, nitya dharma. That every day you do, every day you're chanting, every day you're hearing, every day you're reading, every day you're hearing, and every day you're meditating, remembering. So in this sense, in some of those senses, or one of those senses, or possible in all of those senses, constant engagement in devotional service. And this is this verse in particular is describing, just like Tatshadadana Munayo is describing the faithful person. So this is describing the process of Bhajana Kriya. There's Adoshradha and Sadhu Sangha, hearing from the devotees. And now it's describing Bhajana Kriya, the activities of devotional service. And let's see, do I want to do one more thing? No, it's late, we'll end here. So there's a lot more. And like I said, if I had to throw out one big overarching thing, is that devotional service. But then we have to refine our understanding and define it, and figure out how to apply it in our own lives within these many guidelines, and there's unlimited guidelines. One time in a class, someone asked Satsuru Maharaj that, it's hard doing devotional service. Sometimes something happens and then I have to make an arrangement and do something differently, or then something else comes up, I have to make another arrangement. He said, yes, we have to make arrangement after arrangement, all the way back to Godhead, all of these over there. So we want it to be not crisis management, but intelligently arranging life within these finer and finer parameters and more advanced understanding. Just like, again, going back to my analogy of flying across the nation, as you're getting closer, you have to keep on checking your compass. Am I exactly in line with my goal? And as you're going, you may drift off, and then you check your compass and you refine your direction. So this is some of what's being described in these verses, and I think it's a general principle applicable to our devotional service as well. Now, I was a little spaced out and a little confused. Sorry about that. I hope at least somewhat interesting to some of you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any questions or comments or discussion? Yes, Max.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the question. My question pertains back to the so far. This kind of us. And sometimes maybe experience that we're engaged in one of these items, but not enjoy it. So I wonder what the activating
the activating principle that makes you happy doing it. The things I've been describing here, what's you have to look, what's your motivation? Why am I performing devotional service? Am I mixing my devotional service with other things, or am I letting it become impeded or contaminated by other things? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in Madhurya Kandambini, he says that someone may say that who's not feeling happy in devotional service might say, oh, why am I unhappy in devotional service? I'm not committing any offenses, because committing offenses really takes away the taste of devotional service. But he says, if you're not happy in devotional service, even if you don't think you're committing offenses, you can infer the presence of offenses by your lack of happiness, your lack of taste. So if we're not feeling happy in devotional service, first of all, in real life, outside of the Bhagavatam class, outside of that, in real life, we're not going to be happy every second. But when that happens, we should understand that there's something lacking in my performance, in my motivation. Have I offended someone? Am I making a mistake? Am I not chanting enough quantity? Am I not chanting enough quality? Am I not serving enough quality, quantity? What is that? There's something else I want to say. Anyway, that's some general ideas that we can, right. Prabhupada is saying, if you're performing devotion in one lecture, if you're performing devotional service, you must be happy. And he said it twice or thrice. If you're performing devotional service, you must be happy. And then he says, but if you're performing devotional service and you're not happy, then there's some Maya's play. And he gave an example. He said, just like if you're eating, also referencing that verse, Bhakti Parishanu Bhava Virakti Anyanta Shah uses that example, that if you're eating, you'll be satisfied, and your hunger will be satisfied, and you'll gain pleasure and you'll gain nourishment naturally by eating. So Prabhupada said, just like if you're eating and you're eating and eating and eating and eating, but you're not getting nourishment and you're not putting on weight and you're not getting satisfaction, he said, that means there are some worms in your intestines. His pronunciation. So just like he said, just like if you have a tapeworm and you're eating, but the tapeworm is taking all the nourishment and you're becoming malnourished. So if you're performing devotional service, say, oh, I'm performing so much devotional service, I'm not happy, then we can understand there's some contamination stealing away the nourishment, stealing away the happiness. So it's a positive thing. It means, okay, yeah, that I'm doing something wrong. If you want to perfect something, and if someone points out, oh, you're doing something wrong, that's a good thing. So this is material nature pointing out to me, oh, you're not happy in devotional service, you're doing something wrong. You should trace that out. So that's a couple of thoughts on that. Is that all right? Anything else? Yes, Jonah.
Thanks, everyone. I'm always been fascinated by this idea of performing devotional service. Does that mean sleeping can be devotional service?
Well,
sleeping considered to be a lot of ignorance or
yeah. Well, I guess there's a couple of ways to look at this. One way is that we have to if we don't maintain our bodies in a normal, healthy state, then it's going to become difficult to do our duties in devotional service. So in that sense, we could use sleeping, okay, it may be ignorance or unconsciousness or waste of time, whatever. And Prabhupada also said that the devotee thinks that sleeping is a waste of time. But it's also something we do as part of, to keep the engine running, to keep the body going so that we can engage in devotional service. So that's one possible way to look at it. Not to artificially overdo it, not to artificially underdo it. One time, again, Satsuru Raj was on a morning walk with Prabhupada and said, a little proudly maybe, oh, Prabhupada, I'm only sleeping, I don't remember, 4 hours, 5 hours a day. And Prabhupada said, oh, are you getting enough sleep? And he said, well, the Goswamis only slept a couple of hours a night. And he goes, you are not a Goswami. So we need to take sane, normal, proper care of the body, and sleep is part of that. Another thing is, I've heard this, I don't have a source that someone asked that to Prabhupada, how do we 24 hours a day, so how when you sleep? And the answer was, are you already using every hour that you're awake and every minute that you're awake in devotional service? And some of us, I could speak for myself, I can't speak for anyone else, but we may admit that, yeah, even when I'm awake, maybe I'm not using every second consciously in Krishna consciousness. So if we do that, then the other 6, 8, 10, whatever hours it is that we're asleep will more naturally follow. And whatever, I think I said last week now, when you have a job, and like I'm doing my job, and then at night in my dreams, I'm also sometimes dreaming that I'm processing UPS shipments in sleep because I do it for hours every day. So if our day is so full of devotional service, then the possibilities there that even in our dreams we'll be meditating on it, thinking of it. So there's different ways to look at it, I suppose. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? 9 o'clock, maybe a last question if there is.
Thank you. I want to appreciate you for that as well. When the overview, really for me, it helps me to have a broader idea of what's actually going on, fully what their budget is.
Yeah.
Building is as well. I wanted to go back to one of the first things that you were talking about and just ask if you have, if you know of any formula for asking the question, like a go-to way to get full of the question.
No, I don't know if I have a formula or anything. It should be relevant to the topic of the class. Theoretical and philosophical is good, but it's also good if it has some relevance, actual personal relevance to you. I think that's a good thing. Unless you're in a preaching situation where you may ask a question for the benefit of the audience also. But, and I think most speakers are happy for any questions. But yeah, to make it thoughtful, make it relevant, make it, interesting. I don't really have much of a formula for that.
I remember Rinda Sugar used to say, sometimes you get class and there would be no questions. So that means everybody's.
What did Prabhupada said? Useless question. See, I can't remember the words again. From the absurd inquiries and blind following and absurd inquiries, right? So that's good. That's a good principle. Blind following and absurd inquiries. Yeah, and there doesn't always have to be questions. Sometimes there aren't questions, and sometimes there are. And sometimes a question may be meaningful to someone, but it may not be meaningful to me. And you have to appreciate also different people's viewpoints. And like everything, we're just trying and experimenting and doing the best we can. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for your time and attention. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
I'll have to run upstairs and look up that pop.
Hare Krishna devotees. I was supposed to do a survey to see if we wanted to continue with this format or go back to our regular programming, but looks to me like everybody left. So do you want to tell me what your thoughts are, or do you want to do this survey on another day? I see Shyama Gauri Mataji, and I don't know who iPhone is, but the other two are my mom and me, so it doesn't really count. So who is on the iPhone?
Yeah, Mataji, I am Pinky.
Pinky, okay. So why don't you just tell me, we might just have to do this over the week. What are your thoughts? So just to clarify to begin with, this change is only for Saturdays. It's not for the other days. The other 6 days, we will continue with our regular programming. On Saturday, the choice is, do we want to go back to our original format, or should we stick with this format that you heard today? It will be a group of verses, and it will not also be continuous for us because Saturday's classes are part of another program. So they will continue to have verses going on. We will miss those 4 classes. So the question is, do we want to continue to listen to this Saturday class? It will always be Bhagavatam. It's not going to be any other topic. It will be from the temple room, but we won't have continuity. That is the whole situation. And so the choice is, should we go back to regular programming starting next Saturday? Should we stick to this Krishna House format starting Saturday? Or do you want to try for another 4 weeks and see if you like it, and decide at the end of 4 Saturdays if we should go back or stick with this program? What are your thoughts? And if you feel you are not ready, that's also fine. I was going to actually do this polling. Are you all able to see it? So this is what I was going to ask, but it really will not make sense because I really cannot, I won't be putting my input in. So not sure. What do you have any thoughts on which way you would like to go?
I'm fine with today, whatever we attend. I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. Mother Shyama Gauri, are you able to speak or are you at work?
No, I'm in temple.
Okay.
Yeah, usually I'm not present on Saturdays, but if I have to give my opinion, I would like to go to the 1 verse a day, doing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like we skipped so many, important lessons today.
That is
Those-
just today we have missed, but we will also be missing 4 more classes. So they have been,
Yeah,
they have
yeah.
had 4 classes. So yes, we will be missing quite a bit. But we won't miss anything on our Saturday classes. So when we have our verse on Friday, on Sunday, we will continue. We won't skip any verses. But the thing
Yeah.
is, Saturday will be, it'll be a skip. So I have both of your opinions. I mean, it doesn't make sense to do a survey with essentially
Yeah.
2 people. So here, Drona Prabhu is, so, okay, I will keep your opinions in mind. I'm not sure when again we will do the survey, but thank you for your input though.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you for sticking around.
No problem.
Hare Krishna. We'll see you all tomorrow morning again at 7:50 for another Bhagavatam class.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.